This week, we welcome Anastasia Casey of the ID Co. and the Identity Collective to have a candid conversation about how our social media strategies should be attracting more of our future clients and not other designers.
Anastasia offers guidance about where to find our dream clients and how to speak to them through all of our platforms. This episode is a bit on the long side, but there were way too many gems we couldn't cut any out.
We even got Anastasia to share with us the moment she knew it was time to embrace the niche direction of her business and how she empowered herself to say no to anyone that wasn't her ideal client.
She shares with us how she helps her clients increase their visibility and engagement online and how to sell the value of working with an interior designer.
You don't want to miss Anastasia's amazing episode and our epic Kiss, Marry, Kill challenge, Celebrity Sibling Edition. Let's go!
Hi, I'm Rebecca of Studio Plum.
And I'm Shaun of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
Turned internet friends.
turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot.
Or that young.
Every week, we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses.
Welcome to the club. Hi, welcome to this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, Shaun. Our guest today is Anastasia Casey, who many of you may already know, and if you don't, you for sure need to. Anastasia is the founder and creative director of ID Co. Studio, a creative agency serving the interior design community exclusively. She is also the founder of the Identity Collective, a business and lifestyle blog dedicated to all things interior design. Anastasia is based in Austin, but her team includes 12 members across 3 countries. Welcome, Anastasia.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's like a humongous honor.
Oh,
We
that
are
makes
so
us feel
excited.
good. Thank you for coming. Anastasia, a great place for our listeners to start would be like, how did you decide to get into this like creative line of business, working with websites and working with, these types of fields?
Yeah. So I went to art school in San Francisco for college, and my major was advertising, and I minored in graphic design. And I thought I was going to go to an ad agency. And as a senior, I needed to start making money. So I went to work as a marketing coordinator for a commercial real estate firm in the city. And then I graduated and I just kind of stayed there. I was making good money, and I sort of started to play around with websites on the side. And I ended up landing a job as the director of marketing for this really cool boutique luxury real estate firm in Austin, because my then boyfriend at the time and I had kind of been outpriced in the city of San Francisco. So we were ready to go somewhere else, try something new. And that was a dream job. It was super lifestyle based. It was like a small, close-knit group. And while I was there, I was allowed and able to continue freelance work on the side as long as it wasn't in real estate. So I was doing a lot of branding and web design for, at the time, creative entrepreneurs as a whole. So it would be like salon owners or some interior designers or copywriters, just kind of photographers, wedding planners, kind of like that whole umbrella of anybody creative. And one of my freelance projects that my boss at the time had set me up with approached me and offered me a full-time gig as their CMO, making 75% more than I was already making, equity in the company. It was a
Nice.
dream. But like I said, I had loved the company I was at. It was super close-knit. I was like, thank you, so-and-so company. I really need to talk to my boss. She set us up. I don't want to blindside her. I just want to have this conversation. My mind's not made up yet. This sounds great. But it was definitely more on the startup side, and the company I was at was very much established. So it was a risk for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I called my boss. She was out of town at the time. She said, hold on, I'm flying back. Meet me at the office. I meet her at the office, and she fires me on the spot for being disloyal. Additionally, she calls the person that offered me the job and somehow gets her to retract her offer. So
Ew.
in an instant,
Shade.
I was without any job. And at that point, I walked out to the parking lot just absolutely in shock. I couldn't believe it because I felt like what I was doing was the complete opposite of being disloyal.
But you're trying to do the right thing.
100%. And I called my dad before I called my husband, naturally, as one does. And I just couldn't believe it. And he was so reassuring and calming. He goes, Anastasia, it's okay. You already have a company. It's just time to lean into it. And I was like, that is really interesting. And he's like, do you want to go apply for other jobs? And I was like, Dad, I don't know. I gave this company like my everything. I don't know that I could go work for someone else again. Like, I don't
And
know that I
reinvest your
could.
heart. Like,
Yeah, I'm like, just be burned like that and certainly not compensated for it. And so that was that. And I was really lucky that my dad was like, we'll never let you guys live under a bridge. Like, you'll be fine. Next day, I posted on Instagram. I was like, hey, I guess I'm doing websites now. Like, hire me. And I was booked 6 months out in like 3 weeks. And
wow.
we have just been booked ever since. The big
What year was that?
That happened in 2016. September of 2016.
Okay.
And so for those first 2.5 years, I was still serving all kinds of creatives. And then we can talk about it later if you want to get into it. But then there was kind of like a come to Jesus moment where I was guided to focus exclusively on interiors. And I feel like that's when IDCO like became what it is and what you guys know it to be.
I want to hear about that come to Jesus.
I know. I really do.
So there's this incredible brand stylist out of England. Her name's Fiona Humberston. And she had this work retreat in Mallorca, Spain, that was like at this incredible villa. And she had set up a payment plan. Like at the time, like I was supporting myself, but like, let's be honest, I was not like making big. And she had like a monthly payment plan leading up to it for a whole year. So it was like, great, $300 a month. Like I can do this. I'll invest in this.
Okay.
So I go to Mallorca and it's very woo woo. It's very like touchy feely.
Very bougie.
Well, yeah, it's bougie for sure, but it was like very much like
spiritual,
feelings and warm fuzzies and spiritual.
Oh,
and
crystals and sage. Okay.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
And I am not necessarily that person. Like I'm an actionable person. Like give me the steps, tell me what to do, check it off the list, go on. I think that there's like a time and a place for both. And well, Fiona told me how wrong I was because it was a transformative experience. It really was. While we were there, she said, okay, to be a really great designer, you need to decide who you're serving. And I'm like, I serve creative entrepreneur females. And she's like, honey, that is not a niche, not a niche. So she had me write down my 5 favorite clients and like the whole process, not just the work that we produce, but like the process itself. And I wrote them down, and 4 of those 5 clients were interior designers. She's like, Anastasia, friend, this is your niche. And throughout that, I fought her on it. I was crying. Like it was so drama, you guys, like for sure. I was like, there's no way I could never turn down that much work to just focus on these people.
It's like telling you to leave clients behind.
Yes. She's like telling people, she's like, you have to start saying no to everybody who's not that. And I'm like, what? Like, okay, sorry, you're a rich person, but that's not how it works.
Right.
Crazy.
And through the 4 days, I started to like drink the Kool-Aid and buy more into it. And on the flight home, I rewrote the copy for my entire website and like came up with a whole new game plan. And from the day that I got back, I never booked another client that wasn't an interior designer. And it absolutely changed my life. It changed my life. It changed the business. It's allowed me to hire 10 people, and being able to decide who it is you really want to serve is such an empowering thing.
I just got chills.
It's
I love
like
those stories.
It's something that's so like we all want to be able to say like I pick my clients. I do. It's like I get tongue tied. We all can, and I've struggled with it. I know that I know this isn't like, oh, I'm going to pretend I get to have like the premium client I'm dreaming of all the time. But like part of it is, like you said, you got to drink the Kool-Aid and believe that you can do that. You can find those clients and do that.
Well, even before that, though, it's the willingness to even dream of who that is. I think a lot of us don't even do that step.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, myself included.
You just want the client that will pay your invoice. Like,
right. We're afraid.
whoever.
It's like when you're looking for your person in your personal life, like you're afraid to put it out there of what you're really looking for. Because you're afraid to be disappointed or not find that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of us don't even put that ideal client statement out there.
And I know a lot of your listeners are probably like, well, sure, that makes sense for like a branding and web designer and a creative agency, but how does that apply as an interior designer? And I have to say it 100% does. As an interior designer, you should absolutely still be niching down and really defining who it is you serve. And there's a lot of different ways you can reach that niche. It could be literally your brand style. And so like if you have a signature style, that can be your niche. But it could also be that you really love helping married couples in downtown, like urban areas with no kids, and you really specialize in creating those kind of living spaces. Or you're really great at problem solving for a family that needs to redefine their spaces and kind of come up with a better floor plan, and you have 3 kids yourself and you relate to those people and your clients are the moms at your preschool. It really is deciding who those people are. It's you. Deciding who those people are. So then once we start to get into marketing, you understand who you're talking to and you can find them where they're spending their time online.
Totally. Yeah, I get so many leads from Facebook moms groups that I'm in because that's I
so
know
smart.
a lot of people there.
I hope everyone hears that, because everybody thinks that they need to be on Instagram. And I'm like, yes, but not really. That might not be where your target market is. So you need to be really honest with where they are.
Yeah.
Right. And I probably don't do that well intentionally because I have a few friends in these moms groups and word of mouth. I mean, it's not like I'm paying them or something, but I have like these little birds out there that they always like put my name in the mix when someone's looking for help. So it definitely helps.
I feel like that happens a lot where
do that.
I was in my past careers, you were part of like networking. Networking was like this thing, and basically it was just like, let's hand out business cards and chit chat with it. And it's like, no, that's not really networking. But the intent was in creative, you almost have to constantly be talking about what you're doing and what you're working on, because it just has to stay in people's minds to be saying, I'm working on this kitchen project, or I'm working on this family home, and I'm working on this. And I feel like that's more how we get attention for what we're circulating on versus like, oh, here's a place that's already been done that I finished. It's fresh. And those moms out there are thinking of Rebecca because they're like, oh, I know she was just working on this project, or I see her constantly sharing her process. And so it's right at the front of their mind all the time.
Absolutely. I think you touched on a really good point that I always coach my clients through. Anytime you are deciding, right, what kind of copy to write, or like, how do you position this messaging, or how do you keep it fresh? Talk about problem solving. What problems did you solve for your clients? So much of interior design, especially on social media, is like, here's the after. And maybe there's even a before and after, but you aren't necessarily articulating that, the staircase cut the kitchen in half and this and that, and that's why it didn't work for this family of 5. But if you can articulate what that problem is, then your other dream potential client will say, wait, that's exactly my problem. This is who I need to hire.
Or I know that they have the thought process behind what they're doing to tackle my unique problem. I love that.
More people have asked me about small spaces after seeing my guest house project, because it's only like 378 square feet, and it fits a kitchen and a bathroom and a foyer and a living and a bedroom space. And it's all like basically a studio. But ever since then, I feel like more and more people are like, if you could do that with that small footprint, then I'm sure that you're going to be able to help us figure out the space planning of our small like bungalow that we live in. And in greater LA, there are a ton of these tiny, like original size houses, and people are like, I know we can make better use of this and it gets more attention, but it doesn't come up until people hear the process of, well, how do you plan for that? How do you cram all of this stuff in one place and still have it make sense and not look crowded? So it's like telling that story.
So I went to the Design Influencers Conference in January. It was amazing. And I mean, there was a lot of really great takeaways there, but I made Shaun, like, I tried to get him to come with me, but it just didn't happen. But I took him with me on my drive to San Francisco.
You can usually convince me, since we've like met at the inception, to do almost anything else that she comes up with. And I'm not like much of a joiner, but I also don't want to miss out on a good time. So,
and I'm really good at convincing people doing stuff. But, so I talked to him the whole way there, and then the last meeting, I've just been hearing all weekend about, okay, we don't own our Instagram followers. We don't own our Pinterest followers. If all of this disappeared, what do we have? And it really planted the seed in my head of, you own your website, you own your newsletter, you own your podcast followers. If you hook them into your newsletter, you own that community. So the last day, I just had this thought pop in my head. Well, I'll step back. I went to the conference because I've so far structured my business in the last 2 years to have interior design clients, but I've also built this little bit of an influencing channel where I'm working on my home and getting collaborations that way. But then there's also I have 3 audiences, I feel like, designers. So designers love following other designers. And they're all looking for different things. So the last day of that conference, it popped in my head, like, Shaun and I need to start a podcast. We talk literally every day for multiple hours sometimes. It's stupid waste of time. If we need to monetize this,
some of the conversations,
not a waste of time. I'm just saying we're spending the time.
Yes.
So let's like figure out a way to kind of make this, because we're always just like chatting about, oh, what would you do in this situation? Or did you see that question someone had? What would you do? So the long story is, the reason for this podcast in a way is to talk to that third audience that I've just accidentally built. So I wanted to talk to you about what your thoughts are. Like, designers help designers, but they also looky-loo on each other. Like, how do we deal with those split audiences?
Okay. Tough love.
I know, that's a lot.
Okay, so you have to think about who is going to pay you or hire you. And so I tell all of my clients that on our Instagram captions, in our newsletters, etc., we are talking to our dream client and our dream client only. We are not talking to other designers. However, I do have some clients that push back on that. Like Lindsay Brook Design is like my oldest, dearest client, and she does these Monday mentor sessions, which is not a podcast, but sort of the same concept. And she does these design business how-tos on her stories every other week, because she does have a big following of other designers. And for her, she was outsourcing all of her marketing to me, and that was financial resources that she would be putting out to potentially be talking to other designers, which didn't make sense because she wouldn't get that return on her investment. So she decided to do her Monday mentor sessions every other week, because that was just stories or Instagram live, however she did it. That was her own time. She really liked it. She got to have that personal connection. So that's where she found a really good balance. So when it comes to someone like you guys who has this podcast and you want to talk about all this, and sometimes there comes in with potential copycats or looky-loos, like you say, and how does that continue to benefit? You should be monetizing the podcast. Whether that's through like sponsorship collaborations, like maybe Kohler wants to come in and have you guys talk about resolving some sort of problem with plumbing fixtures, and they can be the sponsor for that. And that way it becomes
Kohler, are you listening? We're here for that.
But like we have done sponsored content. Like we did sponsored content for Lindsay's Monday mentor sessions.
Oh, cool.
And brands are looking to designers who have an influence in the design community. And so there is a lot of room to monetize that. I don't ever want someone to think that like I only do things because it makes me money, because that's not really my platform. But if you really break it down and you look at IDCO and you look at the Identity Collective blog, everything we do is talking to our target market. Everything is about interior design. Everything is about running your business for interior designers, and it's therefore a sales funnel. So what I would encourage is for anybody listening, whether you want to start a podcast or whether, you know, you love your design community on Instagram, that's going to be your most engaged community no matter what, because you have to remember other designers are the people who are looking at those hashtags you're using. Those are the people who are actively commenting. Your dream clients are probably not following hashtag SM Make Life Beautiful. Like they may be, but realistically, if they're hiring a designer, it probably means that they're not interested in interior design. You know, if it's not a hobby, because if it was a hobby or a passion for them, they'd do their own house.
Yeah, they find a Pinterest and then just riff off of that and
exactly
enjoy it. Yeah.
And so you need to be thinking about like where it is that your actual audience is going to be. And if you want to continue to develop this really important aspect of your business, which is fostering the design community, then I would encourage you to think about like, how can I monetize this so that it is adding value either to my clients as well, or where I can be monetizing this so that it's worth the time and effort it takes to put into this business. Because I can't imagine how long these take for you guys to produce and plan and edit and everything. So that would be my advice, is just to be thinking about the content you're producing, who is going to be receiving it, and what is going to be your return on investment with that.
Yes. And we've talked a lot about that. Yeah, it's really helpful, and it's tricky. I mean, I think I like now want to go audit myself, but I think I talked to my potential client on Instagram. But yeah, it's muddy. It gets muddy because like my position, my brand position is trying to be very me about everything. So I want people to hire me because they obviously like my style, but they also are comfortable around me and my personality. And it's like, it's a very personal experience and service that we do. So
you're almost doing the background check for your clients by being present in your stories more and being in front of the camera and letting them see the ins and outs and your various like moods and spirits with things
they
that are
know my
happening
dog's
in your life.
name, you know, like they already know a lot about my life. So it's, when they're ready, I hope it's an easier step to make and not
absolutely. And I think a really kind of like a rule of thumb is treat your feed as a portfolio, like your feed, because if someone gets your name referred, the first thing they're going to do is check out your Instagram. You want that to be super professional, polished, and like representing, you know, the visual aspect of your brand. But then I really love to weave personality both into the captions. I think you can have a lot of personality in your captions, but also in stories. I think that's where you're going to be super engaging, where someone will feel a personal, emotional connection to you. So I think you're totally doing that exactly right. Obviously, there's no perfect way to go about this strategy, but I think it's important to just remember that your Instagram posts are only going to last like max 48 hours as far as their lifespan. After that point, then they're just an advertisement on your feed. So you need to be thinking about like, what is this advertisement on my feed after someone's already come to my profile saying about my business?
I actually used to co-own a creative agency before I did this 3 years ago. And so I love what you're doing. I love how like niched you are. And my favorite thing I think about what you do is how just generous you are with information. I come from an experience where I felt like everything, all of our like secret sauce was held close to our vests. And I just love that you kind of, I don't know, I would love to hear what your just mission is with that. And if you've I'm sure it's intentional, but.
So I deeply, profoundly feel like there's enough work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I really truly believe that. And I also believe that you get tenfold what you put out into the world. And I feel like IDCO has grown at, I don't want to say it's like this crazy pace, but 3 years into it, I'm really proud of what we've created. And I have a group of friends. We had like an Instagram comment pod. I don't know if those still happen, but like back in the day, we had a comment pod, and they were all fellow graphic designers or web designers. And we really became like a mastermind group. And those girls, shout out to my creative clique, like we would share our contracts with each other. We would share like design proposals. Like there was no secrets among us. And as we were all kind of, well, some of the girls had been in business for a long time, but as we all kind of had like grown together, we each started kind of finding our niche, and like we're able to use those tools that we had learned from each other in different ways and in different pockets of different industries. And now everybody is like excelling in their niche. And I think that really was just like such a blessing and such a profound experience for me, because I saw that like it's not always competitive. Like it doesn't have to be that way. And I feel like the first step to making it not be that way for you is for you to not be that way to other people, and for you to be the first person to share that information, and to not feel like you have to have secrets. Because even if you give someone an exact play-by-play of exactly what your process is, they still are going to adapt it and make it their own. And hopefully they'll find a way to even improve upon it and bring it back to you. So yeah, we do share a ton of information, and we don't run ads on our blog. And I've never wanted to kind of dilute the brand that way. And I just trust that we build intellectual and emotional connection with our readers and our followers. And when they're ready to elevate their brand and have a new website or have like invest in Instagram management, I know that we'll be the people they think of. And so, yeah, I just feel like we get so much more out of our followers and our readers, and like, it doesn't matter any number of hours we put into it.
Right. The generosity comes back.
Totally. You're giving to people so that they will give it back when they can.
I have been down many rabbit holes on your website. Like I think I'm going to read one blog post, and then I'm like, new tab. And it's like 10 or more where I'm like, oh yeah, they did talk about, they talked about this. And then it constantly refreshes the idea.
I need to restructure my file folders. I bet Anastasia has some information on that. And she does. You guys, if you do not subscribe to her newsletter, you are like missing out on like critical information.
They're usually like consumable bites of stuff. Like, okay, I can't do all of this right now, but there are pieces that you put out in the posts that are like, okay, you can do this like right now, go do this right now. Go and like repost some of your Pinterest, links that you've done before. At least get those refreshed up and do this right now. And then here's some stuff that, okay, that's going to be a little bit long game, but you can take steps along the way. And I find
or like when I know when I'm going to do my website, which I'm working on, I got to get those alt tags right. But I know you put some info on it. So like pinned it, and it's really
like I said, I'm definitely, I'm not, I don't know, maybe my team would think otherwise, but I don't think I'm necessarily like a super warm, fuzzy person. I'm like pretty direct. I try to be incredibly empathetic. I try to always lead with empathy, but I like actionable items. So
what's your Enneagram?
I am a 7-wing-8.
Oh, and I'm an
Same. 8. I'm a 7-8. Shaun's an 8-7, I think.
Yeah.
and so that's so funny. Slash also not surprising, really. So I don't even remember what I was saying.
We're soulmates,
warm
basically,
fuzzy?
is what you just said. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like I wouldn't say that I'm super warm fuzzy, and we can get into what it's like managing a team, but like I do just always want things to be super actionable. I think that you can like lead with warm fuzzy and like build that sort of level of trust, but like people generally just want to know how to do things. So
tell me what to do. Yeah. Tell me what to do. Give me steps versus like these kind of amorphous idea of like,
Yeah.
make your feed engaging. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And I feel
Right. What
like
does that mean?
that's where you have to actually put down the steps of, are the colors cohesive? Do your designs make sense? Are you using a similar or the same photographer every time? Like those are the how. And I feel like that's where some of it can feel very insurmountable for other designers.
Yeah.
And I don't
But
know
you
if
need
you
the
had to.
mechanics of things sometimes to just start doing it. Yeah, another plug, we'll put all this in the show notes, but your interview with Michelle Bennett was like, I think I listened to it 3 times.
Boom.
Oh my God,
Oh
it's
my
so
God.
good. I mean, I feel like I've got a pretty strong understanding of marketing and social media and Instagram, but I was like, there are some nuggets being dropped in that
Yeah.
episode.
I appreciate that episode you did with her. And I know this was like a while ago already. It's at least a year
Yeah,
or somewhere around
probably
then.
here.
But
Probably a little
in
shy
it,
of a year, I think.
you didn't make it about, oh, let's fight the algorithm. Like it, and I do feel like there's still some of that like pent up resentment. Like that's one of the thorns in like a lot of designers' paw still, is this bitterness towards Instagram about changing the algorithm and doing that. And I feel like, okay, we know that's not going to change. We know we can't control that. And you really try to focus in on, but what can you do? What could you actually get done that could help some of that? There's no way we're going to get past all of their programming they've done. If you had to give some like actionable steps to our listeners, are there some things that jump right at the top of your head that are going to help them reach their audience better?
Yes. So it's going to be a combination of warm fuzzies and a combination of actionable.
Mhm.
So the first thing, and I mean this in an actionable way, but it sounds warm and fuzzy, is like just get started. Like do not post because you feel like you don't have something profound to share, because the algorithm rewards consistency. And so you
Mhm.
need to be consistent.
Mhm.
So as warm and fuzzy as it sounds, I really mean it. Like you should be posting 6 times a week. We skip Saturdays. However, as we're recording this, we're in the midst of this pandemic and things are very strange and people are consuming media at a very much higher rate. Pinterest says that their traffic is up 60% since quarantine
Holy
started.
moly.
People are just sitting around dreaming right now. Like,
Yes, literally. And so, I'm saying this as a general when life is back when it's our normal schedule. Saturdays, people are usually out and about. So that's when I usually would skip. However, now that people are home like permanently, you really could be posting every day. And I do believe in following the metrics and the guidelines given. We post everything for all of our clients through Tailwind, and Tailwind will tell you what time each day to post. And it's not like, oh, it's 11 o'clock every day. It'll say, okay, tomorrow is going to be at 3:53, and then Wednesday is going to be at 11:22. It's like very specific, and it's constantly evaluating your metrics and changing those times. So I personally don't tell Erin, our account manager, but she's also our editor at our blog, and she'll schedule out our posts when we're like promoting a blog post, right? And so she'll put it into Tailwind and she'll always use like the promoted time. I, on the other hand, will get in there and it'll be like 10:23 at night and I'm sitting on my couch and like, let me post to Instagram. And then Erin's posts always do so much better than mine. And I'm like, wait, I should drink my own Kool-Aid and actually post at these times that are suggested. So we have this kind of like hybrid of scheduled like brand content that goes out at a certain time, and then I weave in kind of more on the spot personal type posts. But I'm like, man, I probably would be growing a lot faster if I just stuck to the times they told me.
That's the 7 in you. You get an idea and you
Yes.
just want to act on it.
You're gonna go do it.
That makes it more
So
fun.
I think that is, I know other forums have always talked about just get something out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the best styling. It doesn't even have to be an after photo sometimes. But I have, obviously, the better the composition of the photo, the more likely people are going to pause their scroll to look at it. But yeah, I agree with like just get something out there, because it's odd how like the process photos maybe they get fewer likes but a lot more comments. Like people
Yeah.
want to be in on that conversation, about what's happening. And also people, they want like a cliffhanger. Like, I don't know, people eat that shit up. Like they want to know like, oh, how's this going to turn out? And they're engaging with it. Even if it's not the perfectly finished photo, it's almost like they feel that they could influence some of it while you're still working on it. You might,
oh my gosh,
people
love to win.
in a good and a bad way. Sometimes you're like, okay, no comments from the peanut gallery, thanks so much. But that's just part
I
of
always like
what
them
we
though,
do.
because it helps me come to my real, like if I'm really debating something, it helps me.
And you have to be
understand what
vulnerable.
but usually my real, like the thing I really want to do will bubble to the surface because
people challenge it or
yeah, and I'm like, actually I'm gonna do the opposite, and I like
forget you guys. Yeah, forget all of you. I've got a better idea.
Along those lines, as you're talking about like just post something, I know that people get posting paralysis because they're like, I only have one portfolio project, or I only have two portfolio projects, or you know, I've posted this project before. I am a firm believer in evergreen content, and I think you can get really creative with how to share an old photo in a new way. A few things that you can do is like when you get those hero landscape shots from your photographer, crop it in half to be a portrait, and then you suddenly have two photos out of one, plus the horizontal. Another one I love to do is we'll take a landscape shot, we'll drop it into Photoshop, we'll slice it into two different even pictures, and you can do that cool swipe thing where you see like a landscape. It feels a lot more dynamic and have some motion in it. But again, that's a different shot than when someone saw that full landscape shot. I totally encourage you to reshare portfolio pictures, like 100%, because an Instagram post lasts max 48 hours before it's not in people's feed anymore. So
they probably miss it.
Yes. I mean, Instagram says like it used to be that a good engagement rate was like between 3 and 5%. Instagram is saying that an engagement rate of 1% is ideal now. Like,
I feel good about my 10%.
So you're seeing very low engagement over most of their platform.
Yes.
I mean, 1% to me is very low. I mean, if you have a gigantic audience, that's still a lot of people, but.
Right. But when you look at the ratio, like the actual percentage, you're like, no, 1%. I'm like, what do you mean? Only 1% of my people saw this.
Yeah.
And this is where, as you were saying, it takes you back to that frustration of like this algorithm. I will reiterate, I do think that Instagram is creating this algorithm to benefit us. I really do fundamentally believe that. And it just, as content creators, can be frustrating because you want all of those people who have chosen to follow you to see it. But I also think that this algorithm is what keeps you loving the platform and what keeps you scrolling. So I do understand as why that has been created.
And maybe like pushes people to be more quality focused and not just get lazy with what they're posting.
Well, like Rebecca pushed me like 2 weeks ago. She was like, I just put together some of my stories into this app and now I'm putting it into IGTV. And that was like, Rebecca, wasn't that your first IGTV post?
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning of her one room challenge post, like the before it started. And I was like, okay, well, she's got a 5-year-old running around her house right now and she still managed to put together a video. So like, I have enough time today to do the same thing. Like I could do this. And truly, everyone has been saying like, we're trying to move to video. Video's happening. It's a thing. We're doing it. We're gone. We're all sending you postcards from Videoland. And then I was like, okay, finally, let me just do this. And it was funny to watch how quickly the engagement moved on that video where I'm like, well, none of y'all been looking at my photos for weeks, but suddenly this video, all of you are looking at this. So it didn't take that much time and effort to do it. And it wasn't a perfectly produced video. This is like my, where it like safe in place or whatever it's called now.
Shelter in place?
Shelter
you
in
guys
place.
have safe in place.
Yeah, safer at home, whatever. This was at home. Like I did this on my iPhone. It wasn't.
Well, my philosophy, which I think I've convinced Shaun of, is like he's more of a perfectionist than I am. And my philosophy is like, keep the bar really low. So, for things like stories and Like, I've kept it really organic, rarely put on a face. Like, I'm just gonna wake up in my robe and do stories sometimes.
Because that's a
Just to
barrier to
challenge
entry for
myself.
us.
Yeah, because otherwise I wasn't doing it. And so I just, like, it's only gonna get better from here. So now I can just post in any way and I'm not worried about it. It's not for everyone, but
I think you guys are so right. Like, it is all about video and it's all about stories. People are spending way more time watching stories than they are scrolling their feed. I encourage my clients to set 2 story recordings per week. Like, if you can get on stories on Monday and then you can do it again on Thursday, get up that day, like, do your hair if that's what's holding you back.
right.
And like,
Feel cute, get up
and,
there.
like, just put it on your schedule. And on your schedule, you guys can read all about editorial calendars and like how we plan out our content, etc. We even have one like literally written out for you to use as an interior designer. But like, you can just follow along with your editorial calendar and just build on whatever your post that day is. There are so many ways you can, if you do freak out and don't want to be on camera, which I totally get, you can still create great video content and just be doing a site walkthrough, and you can be talking on behind the camera as you're doing a site walkthrough. You can be pulling samples and pulling furniture sources and like doing a cool mood board, and it's just your hands. Like, there's a lot of way that you can have really dynamic, engaging content without necessarily being like, here's my face and here's my kids running around in the background, or like, oh, I'm the supermodel, if you just like don't feel like you're that person. Or if you potentially have a whole team of designers and you've positioned your brand to not necessarily have the face of the brand, it's more as like a collective. I think there's a lot of ways you can do cool dynamic video that way. You can do Q&A sessions with each of the people on your team. You can have, like, right now I've been seeing a lot of people do these really fun segments where they're showing like what their work from home office looks like, and they do it across the whole team, and
Yeah.
people, they love that. They're like, yes,
Yeah.
show me everything,
Because
please.
they want to see the real person. I don't know. I have a
They want
personal
behind the
pet
curtain.
peeve. I have a pet peeve when I start following somebody and I cannot find the person's face ever anywhere. Is that just a me problem?
Mostly designers. I'm like, oh, I want to know who this is. And there's not, usually if I dig, I might find something on their website. But if I like go through their whole Instagram, and first off, if it's not their profile, that bothers me because I'm like, well, dang it. Now I
Mine's
won't know
not.
if that's you. And then I'm like, oh, maybe they were tagged in a photo. So like I'm cyber stalking, like clicking their tagged photos
Hey,
to
it
see if
shouldn't be
they're.
that hard to get to feel like you know who you're talking to. Like, I don't like it when I don't know who am I talking to at all. Like, I don't know your name. I don't know.
I couldn't
I
put a
don't know.
face with it. Like, is
Is
that
that
something
just
you tell clients?
me? Like,
I think
On the spot.
well, no, I'm just
well,
like,
because you're
okay,
gonna
how
have
do
to show
I,
your face to your client eventually if they hire you. I don't know. I think people just want to know who they're talking to.
yes, I think they do, but I also think I honestly, I truly feel like it's a personal preference. I think that you can have really great dynamic, engaging content and not have pictures of your face everywhere. I've also had to tell clients to stop posting stories of what they're eating for breakfast,
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
because I think people can get, I think there comes a level of vanity with how often you're posting on your stories and how often you
Mhm.
decide to get on camera and talk to people. And for me, if I was going to hire someone, I don't want someone who can take the time to upload 4 hours of stories a day. Like,
Right.
they should be working. So
Yeah,
I think that
where
there's,
are those construction drawings I need finished? Like, oh, but you're on.
Right.
Yeah, there is that
so
pressure if you have a delay with a client, but yet you have time to be posting all of our stories.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I
I
guess
think,
I just mean when there's no sign of like, I've done this where I'm like, I'm just gonna see. I go down this rabbit hole where I'm like, I'm just gonna see if I can find this person, what they look like. I don't know. I don't know why.
so we have a rule that 1 every 14 posts for our clients is going to be a
Yeah.
headshot. But then, like, of course, we have other clients like Pelicheck, they don't have headshots. Like, even though they're a family company,
yeah.
like, we're not putting Andrew's face on the feed. So I really do think that there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's
that's a
about
huge company.
pos-
Yeah, I guess.
positioning. Yeah, but I mean, it is a family-owned company, so some people would say that there should be their faces all over it. And
Mhm.
so I think it's about positioning, like, how you want your brand to be interpreted. Like, are you I always take it as, do you want this to look like this is your hobby, or do you want this to look like it's your job?
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's a good
It's a
question.
balancing act. I
Yeah,
mean, I
I think
think,
it's great. I love when people pop on and talk on stories. I think that Lindy Galloway does a great job. Mind you, she does have like an entire in-house video team.
yeah,
but but
she's to the
she
nth degree. Like,
but she does a great job of being like, this is always on brand content, and she's chosen to invest in that part of her marketing and her business. I love the way Lindsay does stories. I think Lindsay Brook Design does great stories. She'll show behind the scenes and she'll do walkthroughs. Obviously Shay McGee, like when she's doing walkthroughs, if I see her post a story, I will pull over my car and be like, please walk me through your house. Like, what are you doing?
God, I know.
oh
So
yeah.
I think that there are great ways to do it. I just don't want people to think that they need to be like documenting their dog walk and then, what coffee they're having that day and all of these other things. I think that every message you put out there should be intentional. It should be informative or entertaining. And there should, there just should always be a purpose to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally
I still
agree.
maintain my personal Instagram account that I'm like protective of, because it's like my close family, close friends.
Mhm.
It's a pretty tight group of people, and I really don't. I mean, a little overlap makes sense because some of my family and friends are obviously interested in what I'm doing professionally. But then I just tell them, I'm like, then you need to go to Renstead Interiors if you want to see that, because I'm not going to double share content, and not all my friends want to see that stuff, and I don't want them to get turned off of that. And then I still do interact with friends or family separately from my business. And I know it's sort of a weird line for everybody to deal with, but
Yeah, no, I love that, separating the two. And I think I think weaving personality into your brand is so important. And I think, like you said, like putting your face out there, especially if like your clients are like, you're very locally specific, like you do X, Y, and Z neighborhood, and like you're not necessarily doing like projects all over the country, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You want people to recognize you. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw her at Starbucks, or like her kid does go to my school. That's super important. And people love to watch people sit there and talk. I just just make sure you're giving behind the scenes, talking about your design process, like showing the samples you're picking, why you didn't do this, go over revisions that a client gave you and be like, so this is the feedback we got, this is what we're going to tweak to present to them next. I think that showing your process means that you are providing people with evidence to justify your costs and what you're
Yeah.
charging people. I think a lot of people, if they haven't worked with a designer before, or they worked with a designer before in the past and they had a completely different process, will often push back on pricing. And you want to be positioning yourself so there's never a question of your hourly rate. And I'm going to tell all of you guys, you should be at least doubling your rate at this point. Raise your rate. People will pay
no
them.
matter what the number is. And that's what I like about like,
No matter what the
you don't
number.
care what the number is. We need to be elevating all of us.
The industry.
Right. And so by showing people what those behind the scenes, like what is happening when they're not sitting there watching you, even like how many hours does it take you to put together a design presentation after you've already completed the design? I mean, that's like a 4 or 5 hour project in itself. And so by being able to provide someone that back end and to show them how much thought goes into this, I get so frustrated with people who think that interior designers are decorators and like they just know how to put together pretty things, because like there is incredible amounts of math and project management and geometry and just so much that goes into that. And someone who isn't in the industry, they just don't know that, and you can't expect them to know that. So you want to create content, whether it's a blog post that someone can read that you can link to in that inquiry email when they're asking you questions, or it's stories on your Instagram. You want to be able to provide them that education so that they're like, heck yes, you should bill me at $435 an hour.
Damn.
And especially for Rebecca, who was working on calculations for drapery treatments earlier in the week, she was like,
oh my God.
And that takes, to make them come out right, it takes an inordinate amount of time and thought to how everything works together. And then everyone just looks at it and thinks like, oh, I just bought these at Target, they look great. And you're like, hold on a
but if they're
minute.
1 inch too long, you're going to notice. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a lot of
short.
time that goes into it that I think is unexpected for a lot of clients. It looks so easy because we're too busy making it look too easy. And I'm
Right.
kind of taking from what you're saying, Anastasia, of go ahead and show how the sausage is being made a little bit,
Yes,
that they
100.
should see that.
Yes, people love like people get, the more you know about something, the more interesting you find it. So the more that they can know about the process, the more interested in it, and the more they realize that this is not a luxury service, this is a must-have thing that I need in my life. And that's what your goal is, to explain to these people that this is not some frivolous expense. Like, this is going to improve your life, and this is how we're going to make it happen. So I am so I just think it's so important to be showing people like all that goes into what goes into design decisions and design presentations and ordering and
Problem
receiving
solving.
and installation. Yes, exactly.
Gosh, preach, hallelujah. Like,
Yeah. I know the whole like receiving and installation process, like I'm always so overwhelmed with the day to like document it properly, but then it's
Right.
hard to sell when someone doesn't know exactly how that all goes.
when you
So,
see like a whole moving truck full of cardboard and
yeah.
plastic, and you're like, otherwise this would be sitting in your driveway. Like,
Or each of these was going to be a separate delivery that you'd have had to been home for. Does that sound like something you
that
wanted to
doesn't sound
do?
like fun.
I was talking with a client recently and we came up with this great idea because, yes, install day is like impossible to actually remember to stop and document it. Couple quick ideas. A, you can set alarms on your phone that hopefully someone can remember to, like, yes, let's document this throughout the day. Even if you just take a quick 10-second video and then you go ahead and post it later, you don't have to like take
Yeah.
the time to post it live. But talking about receiving, so I know that a lot of people, everybody bills differently, but let's just base it on the fact that receiving is a flat percentage on their total goods. So,
Mm-hmm.
for instance, let's say you add another 10% on top of like your total furnishings and decor budget. What you could do is talk to your receiving warehouse and say, hey, can I come do like a Q&A interview with you? Can we show people what it's like as we receive a piece of furniture and you inspect it, you repair it if it needs it, you tell me if it needs, like, you contact me and let me know that we need to reach out because it came damaged. Talking about all of that time plus the time or the cost of actually storing the physical item, that this family does not have the space to store a whole
Mm-hmm.
house of furniture. So that is great content you can create too, is like explain what this process is so someone can really see it. And then it's like, oh, of course that's going to cost 10%. Makes sense.
That's a good idea. And it would be smart to just have that as a video that you could also share in your proposals or your onboarding documents.
I love
That
that.
is like,
Yeah.
don't ask, like, because sometimes certain clients, like the ones that don't like to pay for shipping from an online retailer. So the retailers just bake it in and call it free shipping, but they're still paying for it. Like someone's paying for it.
Right.
You just don't see the line item. But
It's
we
different when
don't.
you can see that person at a receiver who's like doing all of this physical labor for you. It's hard for some people to not be appreciative watching their whole house get filled up and knowing what that looks like and realizing how much lifting, moving, messiness, like,
Right. Literally, y'all,
Customer
my
service.
garage is filled with cardboard because we've been getting so much furniture lately. And in Austin, which is so bizarre, your recycling only gets picked up every other week, which I'm like, that doesn't really encourage people to recycle, by the way.
no.
But
Most every week something's going in the trash if that's not the recycling week. Like,
right. Or it just stays in my garage because I refuse to throw it away. But at the same time, I can't get it into the recycling can. But my point is that people, realistically, if they're receiving a whole house or a whole room, let's just say it's a whole room of furniture, they're just going to receive boxes, and that's just going to stay in the box until their designer comes to install it. So even if it was getting shipped to their house, they would need room for all of those things in boxes, which means they never inspect it. And then their
Right.
project is
It's sitting there
prolonged because when it
broken.
goes to install day, then something's broken. And then all of a sudden we don't have that coffee table for another 8 weeks because we have to wait for it to arrive. So there's just so many places where you can really explain your process, justify your process, and then justify your prices.
Yes.
totally.
Yeah. I think that's smart to do that. It's been kind of on my to-do, but I like the video aspect of it.
You could also literally email them over questions, like do a Q&A interview. If they're like, no, you cannot come film
FAQ.
this. Yeah. An FAQ would be perfect too. And they can get back to you with that. I mean, these are the same questions you should be asking your receiving warehouse when you're finding a receiving warehouse. They should be able to answer those questions for you. And if they hesitate to answer those questions, then you need to find another warehouse.
Yeah. They're probably answering them all the time anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So to be able to have that as an additional kind of tool in your pocket to present to people is just super beneficial. And when that question of like, what's this extra 10% markup, or, you know, whatever your markup is, or if you do it like a flat rate, like, what is this? You can say, well, this is what it is.
Yeah. Here's everything that comes with that.
Yeah. And just like you were saying, if it's included in your onboarding materials, like when you first get your inquiry, then there's also no surprises. Then there's no uncomfortable conversation of like, what is this extra 10%? So people can know up front. I mean, those are things you can have on your blog that you can refer to them before they even get your investment guide.
Yeah.
I also wonder if there's a way to make it feel more like of a luxury, because you're doing this already through Target offers free shipping, but they're baking it into their price. They're making it really one size fits all for you. But this is a luxury service where we're kind of breaking it down for you, where you're seeing how this really works in the world, because we're not upcharge. Like, I don't upcharge receiving or installation from them. I don't know. Am I making sense? Like, you're getting a peek into a world that you wouldn't normally get if you were just gonna buy something from Macy's. You're getting to see what white glove means. You're getting to hear a little bit more about like how interior designers work. Does that make sense? Like, I think there's a way to just package it so it feels like, oh, this is kind of special. I'm not just getting the McDonald's version.
It's customized for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's called white glove for a reason. Like, it's fancy.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that might be, some of that is the overexposure to what we think, you know, an upscale, but it's like, we've changed our frame of reference to some of that this is like truly like right now too. I'm thinking like times of COVID-19, it is a first world problem to have of like, my garage is full of cardboard and like we have to explain to people. It's like, yes, we recognize that our clients, we are all in a fortunate place to be able to have those problems and to be talking about them. But going back, Anastasia, you were saying like, this is an investment in your happiness. So this is something you have control over, but we want you to know what you're getting with it and how it works. And
I also wonder if we have more respect. Like, I wonder if coming out of this, one of the takeaways might be like a slightly more respect for these delivery services and people that are out there keeping the world running, because now we really know where the breakdowns happen. Mm-hmm. Like, if toilet paper doesn't get delivered because the freight warehouse isn't getting it, or blah blah blah, like the chain of supply is a real
service chain. Yeah, it's been like super highlighted now, and that's very up.
Maybe it'll help us explain it.
Another way to help position it as like, this is such a luxury, which it absolutely is it's also an added value, because if you are ordering things retail and it comes to you flat in a box, then you would need to tell your client, okay, our rate for installation day is X, Y, and Z. But if I have to build that furniture that day, that's suddenly a 3-day install, and you've now paid this much more money because that furniture has to be built. When you are sending stuff to a receiving warehouse, it's like if you're buying from a vendor, typically it's put together, but the receiving warehouse builds the furniture for you. So it's either you're paying for my design hourly fee, or you're paying for this much smaller 10% fee. So it is a value add as well as a luxury.
And you're getting a higher quality item for that price versus someone installing it. And you don't have
to deal with styrofoam crumbles in your house.
Oh my gosh. Blowing around in your driveway for 4 weeks later in your landscaping. If you're at my house, like, worst mistake ever. Like, trying to break down the foam to put it in the bin means that it's foam confetti all over your driveway. Like,
my husband literally has styrofoam phobia. Quinn will something about the sound he does not like, but he freaks out. So he's like, if you get furniture, you open it in the garage, I will carry it into the house for you, but you do not bring that styrofoam in.
Doesn't want to see it.
No, he can't even look at it. He's like, nope, you have to take this one. I'm like,
That that squeak is kind of gross. That's
I mean,
funny.
it's pretty rough. But it's like a modern world equivalent, to being scared of like spiders or something. Like in your house, it's styrofoam.
I hate like at the nail salon when they pull the cotton apart.
Oh,
That gets me.
Oh,
That one gives me chills. But styrofoam I can handle.
okay.
yeah, I feel that. It's like
So,
yeah.
if I want to go back, Anastasia, on early in the podcast, you mentioned getting in, like, where or being where our clients are online. And I know that you do some of the feed management and social media management for your clients. What are your tips, or what are things you're doing to get them? If you can share with us some of it. I don't want to
I'll share everything. I share everything. Our service is the
you.
time that's spent doing it. It's not a secret to what we do. So first be thinking about like, what neighborhoods do you want to work in? Like if you say that, your minimum project is $150,000 remodel, then okay, who's spending that? So first be targeting your neighborhoods. What you're going to do from there is target geotags of those neighborhoods. And then you can go through and see all the posts that are in there. We'll then go into those neighborhoods, scroll through like the last 20 posts or so, find the ones that like look remotely interesting, like some are like spammy and gross or whatever, so like you'll skip over those. But of the last 20 posts, we'll go and like and comment on the last 15 of those last 20.
Mm-hmm.
So we are actively outbound engaging with people in our desired neighborhoods. And we have a great story that I always like to reference, that Lindsay had told us, hey, I really want to get into Brentwood. And so Anna, our community manager, I told her, I'm like, hey, you need to start targeting Brentwood. And so she had started liking and commenting on posts at private schools in that area. And Lindsay booked her biggest job at that point to date, because a woman DM'd her and was like, hey, does your kid go to our school? I'm really looking for an interior designer. And she was like, no, I'm just really trying to get my name out in the area. And so I'm trying to get more involved in the community. And she's like, oh, I love that. She's like, can we set up a meeting? And so the trick is, you have to remember that unless someone is super into interior design, they probably are not spending their time looking at these hashtags that we all use amongst ourselves in the industry. So you need to be thinking about what gyms they go to. That's where you're going to go spend time commenting and engaging. And they're not spammy. It's literally just commenting and reacting to the post, like genuinely, of whatever it is that had been written. Leave a genuine comment. And it's just about like brand awareness, getting yourself out there, because when someone likes your comment or replies to your comment, you usually click over to their profile. It's just super natural. You're like, oh, who is this person?
Yeah.
And that's where you're going to be like, that's where you start to grow your followers, and that's where you'll start to get your inquiries. So geotags is one. Specific like hotspots in town, like if there's this cool boutique, like I will always go through and like troll those comments, and I'll be like, oh girl, I love this, blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. It's just about where are those people spending time. So it's going to be at their preschools, it's going to be the country clubs, or it's going to be the local baseball fields, or whatever it is. You just need to be thinking about where it is that they're actually spending that time. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing that we do. Additionally, this is kind of more of an engagement thing, but we always respond to every comment we get. Sometimes it'll take us up to 24 hours because poor Anna has to go through, and I try to get to a lot, but when you're getting 100 comments on a post, I'm like, Anna, that one's all you. So we'll
got the little ones.
We'll respond to every comment, and you will like every single comment as well, because Instagram does weigh like a heart as much as a comment. Instagram has debunked the fact that you need comments that have 3+ words or 5+ words. Instagram says that's not true.
Can an emoji count?
Just an emoji counts, yeah.
Okay.
Now, the trick is, you do have to think that when someone sees just an emoji, is another person that's likely to engage, or if they start leaving actual comments, is someone more likely to engage and be like, I agree with that, I disagree with that. So I think that's where the value of longer comments comes in. But I think you should reply and say thank you so much to every comment. If someone's taking the time to actually write something, I try to make sure we always get back to them. And then I also would just, before any time you post, go to one of those geotags, go to either the store, the geotag, whatever it is, outbound engagement, like and comment on 10 other people's posts that are not people that you normally follow, then post. Because just like I said before, when someone sees that this new account that they don't recognize likes or comments on something, they click over and then they're going to like your most recent post. So you're outbound engaging to invite them back to your profile. From there, they can choose to follow you or not. And so maybe they choose to follow you and maybe you don't. But you can't expect people to just find you when you're using the same group of designer hashtags and they're not a designer.
Right. And do you comment on new followers? Do you go over and comment or like or anything? I've heard that.
I think that's a great idea.
But it may not necessarily lead to what you're thinking of, right? Is that?
Well, no, honestly, it's just like a feasibility.
Sometimes they're private.
Like on some of our larger accounts, I mean, we're getting like 1,000 followers a day.
Damn.
So obviously a lot. And
yeah,
a smaller account, a newer account, I think that's fabulous. I think the more you can create that personal connection, it doesn't matter if you have 100,000 followers or not. You only need to book that one client. So
right.
I don't want people to get caught up in the numbers. I just mean like realistically, in a larger account, you can only see your last 50 notifications. So, you know, if you just posted and a post that I posted an hour ago has 600 likes, or comments, I can only see the last 50. And so that means that all those other followers that were before that, like I never even get to see that they started to follow.
I see.
So it's a little tricky, but I love the idea. If you're like, this is still manageable, I want to be super involved. I think either sending them a DM and say, thanks so much for the follow is so great. I would stay away from being like, if you ever need an interior designer, like think of me, because they already know that you're a designer. But to just be like, thank you so much feels really good.
Yeah. Or even just going to if they're public, just going over there and liking a few things that they've posted.
Yeah, totally.
Even if you don't follow everybody, like that would be a lot to add, but
I like getting all this. That was like in the nitty gritty for me. And I was like, oh, like it never would have crossed my mind to go to other people's feeds first before I post.
I know.
And like and comment. Like, I'm just like, you say it and I'm like, well, duh. But then
you're like priming the pump for your posts.
Yeah. It makes sense totally when you say that, but it really is. I agree that it's not the follower number. It's like, okay, that's great. And it can be, it can be an ego boost. It can help you at least feel like, okay, I'm reaching people. But the most important part for me is to be able to bring home a paycheck. So it's getting the client work that helps me do that. So I can keep, supporting, and contributing to my family and my life that I need and, keep my doors open. So it's not, as much as it's great to get over 10K and do all of that, that for me is the smallest part of it. The biggest part is even if just one of them is a potential client that's going to call me in a couple weeks, that's helpful.
I just really want the swipe up.
I mean, smaller accounts have way better engagement. I mean, a smaller account probably has somewhere like 30-40% engagement rates. I'm talking like accounts under 1,000, under 3,000. Those people are like, those followers are way more likely to book you than when you have, 50,000 followers. And you have to do a lot more marketing for them to be like, yes, I want to work with you.
Yeah. So, it almost feels like you're unattainable when they're so big, they'd never work with me almost like.
Or just like, just from the algorithm
them.
itself, there's fewer people seeing your post as you get more followers, which is very reverse psychology-esque. But like, when you have quality followers and you have a following of 3,000 people and you know that 1,000 of them are seeing your posts, like that's way more powerful than when you have 30,000 and 1,000 people are seeing your posts.
Totally.
So do not stress about the numbers. They literally mean nothing except potentially brands reaching out because they want you to post something for that $30 free item that they're going to give you that's going to cost you more money to produce anyway.
Right. Absolutely. Keeping it real.
One more of these questions because I am like, I think I'm at 8,600 or something.
Yay!
So I feel like it's like in my sights, and now it's just a thing I want.
It is.
So, do you recommend like giveaways or anything that's kind of like that?
I think giveaways are fun. I think you could be creative about how to make them strategic. I understand that at 8,600, like your goal is to hit 10K. Giveaways can end up being a lot of follow unfollows. So someone will follow you and then
Mm.
giveaways over, and then you drop back below 10K. And like, what could be worse in life than like,
Aw. So
um,
close.
and so, you have to be strategic. It's like, maybe it's tag a designer friend, or maybe I think you could just be specific about what your actual goal is, because I really do believe in quality over quantity. Or go ahead and do the giveaway and you can hit 10K, and hopefully you go far enough over 10K that when those unfollows happen, and they do happen,
Right.
you're still over that threshold that was your goal. And for giveaways, I think it's just like, I'm really conscientious about like, what does this giveaway represent to my brand?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really conscientious about like what sponsored product posts I'll do. Like, does this vacuum post for a vacuum that costs $400 like add to my brand, or is it just a free vacuum? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about what you could give away that's like a big value add is a great option for giveaways. I think also like finding some of your designer friends and doing like a follow Friday round robin kind of thing is really fun, because it's fun to get to follow other accounts that have similar styles, or maybe different styles but complementary values or missions, etc. So then you get 10 people, and it's like, oh, go follow them, and then that person features the next person, and then that person features the next one. I think that is really fun. It's a great thing to put in stories, and you can get new followers that way. But honestly, the best way to get new followers is to make sure you're tagging your retailers and your vendors, and you can stack them. When you tag a photo, you can stack the tags so that you can't actually see who you tagged, because getting regrammed by big accounts is honestly, I feel like that is the biggest way to grow your following.
True.
And whether it's been like press, or people have just, like, I feel like we started growing really fast when we redid my kitchen. Like, that kitchen blew up and was everywhere, got picked up like 6 times by media. And that's when it was like quick, and it's kind of that momentum has stayed on. But that's because every single time I post that kitchen, I tag every single vendor again, and then they'll pick it up again, and then I get another boost of another 2,000 followers, etc.
Totally.
So just make sure you're always tagging, because I mean, we do represent brands, and that's where we find our content. Like, we're desperate for people to tag us so we can share their work. So just make sure you're always tagging your vendors.
Okay, that's smart.
Totally. I love that. That's something that even if you don't have tons of them in a photograph, like, you can still find a couple things. Like, I know I've done that I have kitchens, and kitchens are tough because it's not always like big brands or the cabinetry or stuff like that. Like versus like a furnished and accessorized room has quite a few opportunities usually. But even in the kitchen, you can still get the appliance that's in it. You can still get some of the like accessories that are around the sink, the hardware. Yeah.
The runner,
even if
the
it's like
company,
the countertop company.
The other thing is, like, I would usually tag 2 or 3 like publishers as well. Like, tag IDCO, tag us. Like, we always pull content to put on the blog. But like SMP Living or Rue or Domino or My Domain, that's where their editors go through to find the next thing that they need to write about. People are paid to figure out content to come up with for these publications. Right. So just make sure that you're putting that content out there and making it easy for them to do their job.
I didn't even think about that it's when they're tagged in a post, they can go to their feed then and see the tag, versus if they're just mentioned in the comment or in a hashtag, that they can still keep going back to that content in their feed and see where they're tagged.
The trick,
I look at tags. I'll be
making sure that you tag the brand or the publication in the photo is key, because like I was saying, you can only see like your last 50 notifications. So SMP Living gets like, I don't know, gajillions and gajillions of likes or whatever.
I'm sure.
Like, in 0.5 seconds, they've missed your tag, so they don't see it. So you need to make sure that you tag them in the photo, because they'll always be able to see that they were tagged in a photo versus just in the caption.
That's huge. That's huge, especially because I feel like there's such a long lead on getting publications interest, and I recognize that that takes a long time. Rebecca and I have had various press and in our projects, and it's a long lead up, and it takes time for them to discover a project and then to pick something up and then to get it on their calendar to assign a writer. And now most of them even have like freelance writers, so they're not all
100%.
in house. So there's it's even more challenging for them to react quickly on content unless it's staying present in mind, like your kitchen. Like it's there, bam, we just saw it, and then wait, it came back that next, okay, we need to get on this. Like obviously people like this and want to see it.
Right.
And they can expose an even bigger audience to it. So that's exciting for them to get the click-throughs onto their feed and onto their sites too.
Yeah, and you were totally right about the fact that most of them are using freelance writers. You can usually go to a publications like, I don't know the word, but like roster of who they have writing for them, and like go and stalk those writers and follow them on Instagram and make sure you engage with their account so that you're putting yourself in front of them so that when they need that quote about the best white, they're like, oh shoot, I need this quote, I have a deadline at 3, let me go ahead and call Anastasia. You just need to, I think,
slide into those DMs.
or just be present, like just be engaging. Just people on Instagram now just expect to be able to put out content and just like the world's going to come find them. And that's just not the case because every other person out there is doing the same thing. Everybody is coming from a place of vanity just by nature, and they're concerned about them. And so when you're liking other people's posts before you're posting your own, when you're finding these editors and following them and engaging with them in their space before you invite them back to yours, it's a much easier sell and it's a much faster growth strategy.
Totally. It's so different. And that, I think, like you said, like people were expecting that. So we almost got trained. So going back probably at least about 3 years ago, before a lot of those major algorithm changes, it was that easy. You post some pretty stuff, you're reaching 10,000, 20,000 people. It happens so quickly and easily. But that was also the downside of that, is that you were just inundated with so many people, but not necessarily connecting with any of them at all. There's just way too many. And now it's that they're trying to get to the other side of that, which is, well, we developed this platform so people could connect and meet each other and learn things from each other and build community online. I mean, that's how Rebecca and I met even. So it was like, for some, I think they're still executing on that, but we have to change what we view the success measure to be, instead of just focusing on exposure and number. It's how many people can I connect to on an individual level.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, do what is actually enjoyable to you, because then you'll want to do it. It'll come across as something more engaging, more real. If you don't want to show behind the scenes of the floor guys in your bedroom, don't do it. But to me, that I'm so like keyed up about it. It's so fun. And that comes through. People know how excited I am. So the enthusiast says, make it fun.
I just thought of something funny that I was remembering, because Anastasia, you and I were DMing back and forth on Instagram a couple weeks ago about our like random like Disney crossover.
Oh yeah.
When we were both like, we had both worked for the Mouse at one point here in Southern California. So you grew up in Southern California then?
I kind of grew up all over the place. I went to high school in LA. Yeah.
Okay. And then Rebecca, you're from, or grew up in Orange County. Yeah. So we all have that connection, which I think it's weird it's interesting to watch how people navigate around each other and could be just a few degrees away from each other at any given point, and then something snaps and people connect to each other. And
I think is the magic of Instagram, because like you guys met on Instagram. Lexi, my business partner, and absolute, like, people are like, oh, she's your work wife. I'm like, no, she's like my life wife. Like she's my person. It's a magical place because passing someone on the street, you don't get to know all of their, deep passions just walking by them. And Instagram gives you that opportunity to see what they're passionate about and relate to them and find them through the discovery tools that they provide you with hashtags, etc. So I think Instagram is such a beautiful, wonderful platform if you can step back and be like, look at how much it's actually given us. Like my dearest, most wonderful friends, mentors, opportunities, clients have come from Instagram. And like, no, they don't pay me to say this, but I know we all kind of get bummed out sometimes. And it sucks when you spent a lot of time creating that shot or writing that caption. And then you're like, wait, why did that bomb? And then just like you were saying, think about what that one-on-one connection is, because like I would trade all of the money I've invested and all of the time and energy I've put into it for my friendship with Lexi 100 times over. So a million times over. Like there is no quantitative ratio I could swap those out for. But I just think that if we can come at it from that perspective and how you can be connecting with someone one-on-one and how then you can change their life. I mean, like you guys change people's lives with design so much more than I ever could with web design or branding. I mean, you guys shape the way that they live in such a powerful way. And I think that that's such a gift that you guys have to share with the world.
Oh, that's a
like
warm
a
fuzzy.
beautiful way to wrap it up. Like that on a quote.
That's the warm fuzzy we weren't expecting.
Always sneaking
warm
there.
fuzzy.
We always that's hard to move on from, because I know that's so much of the magic that we talk about with clients that I don't think you really understand it. And so it's been reassuring to hear from some of my clients that I've been talking to while we've been in lockdown, and just touching base with them about, like, personally, how are they? Not, hey, got any bones to throw this way? No, it's just like, I'm thinking about your family because we did that work in your living room, and you like, and I know that you have a child who was away at school and now they're coming back, and you have little ones. And so many of them are like, oh, I'm so glad we did that. And I'm so glad we worked on that with you, because we're there every day now. We're doing this all the time. And maybe that has brought a lot of awareness back to the importance that it plays, because people are seeing it now every single day. It's not just a part of their home that they appreciate in the evening anymore. It's all day, every day.
No kidding. Can I squeeze one more tidbit on top of that? And I guess
yeah.
I know a lot of you guys are, I hate to use the word scared, but like it is a scary time. It's an uncertain time, and things can feel like everything you've been working to build has potentially been ripped out from underneath you because you can't work on people's houses right now. The economy isn't certain. You're like, what's going to come out of this? I run a luxury service. Is someone still going to need me? And I just want to leave a tidbit that I really feel like interior designers are in an incredible position of power right now, because after people have been locked with their family in their houses for months on end, they understand now more than ever how their space lives, what works and what doesn't. And I think people are going to come out of this so eager to improve upon that and resolve issues that they came across, and for nothing else, feel refreshed. They're going to be ready for a refresh. And I think you guys can really capitalize that in the most genuine and natural way, and just be prepared to be positioning yourself for that. And just don't give up, guys. Like, I really think that this is a unique opportunity for you, and just hang in there right now. When I know you guys can't be doing installs, focus on getting all your designs approved by your clients. Focus on like really buttoning everything up, work on your interior processes within your business, work on adding your alt tags or whatever that is, those little kind of do's that have been on back burner, and just be prepared, because people are going to be ready to revamp their houses.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. Thank you, Anastasia. I I want to do something something fun. We in the last couple of episodes, we have been either Rebecca and I are surprising each other or guests with different situations of if you were in quarantine. Would you be open to playing Who Would You Rather quarantine edition with male celebrities?
100%. I just hope I'm cool enough to know who you guys are talking
That's
about.
what I said.
We always, it's always a surprise. So, okay. So, and if you don't know them, we can always talk about what
We'll
they've
just
been.
have to edit those out. We'll just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. So who would you rather be quarantined with? Chris or Liam Hemsworth?
Definitely Chris.
Oh.
Wait, is his wife there or not?
No, probably no. I'm assuming no. This is just them. I mean, it's isolation, so
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. James or Dave Franco?
I think I'd go with Dave.
Dave seems kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I feel like.
But it's not in his head yet.
I would tire
Of James?
Yeah, I think I would tire of it.
We talked about that in another one we did with Rebecca, where it was like, that might get exhausting. And
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if I have the patience for that. So.
Okay. So, and then one more, Luke or Owen Wilson?
Definitely Luke.
I thought that was coming.
Yeah.
Awesome. I feel like I agree with all three of those. I wouldn't mind any of them.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, there's not really a wrong answer.
I don't know.
A fun game that really makes you think. I'm like, oh man. I just have to say I am so thankful to be quarantined with my husband because he is the sweetest, kindest, lowest key person who does every chore in the book, and I never have to ask him. And I'm like, I kind of was a little scared because we didn't necessarily spend tons and tons of time together, and now we're spending all the time together.
Right. Because you were going into your office a lot more.
Yes. Well, and he was working in his office, and he plays ice hockey 2 nights a week, and he like has all these like clubs, and he's like super cool. And like I'm just at home working on my computer on the couch late at night. And it's actually gone like so well. So I'm gonna go home and eat a big bite tonight and just watch. Like it's for sure.
But it's good to put that like grateful energy back out there that like, hey, we're making it. Like this is okay. Like this is temporary. We are doing a good job. I would still be living in this house with you when quarantine is over. Like,
yeah, I'm thankful my husband's still going to work, so he would not. I mean, I'm not mad that on my projects and. Yeah.
Well, and he doesn't have to live through Rebecca the construction during the day. He gets to see a smaller window of it, and you're the one there living through it during the
Rebecca,
day,
the creative process is not his cup of tea. Yeah.
Not his favorite version.
Yeah. Anastasia, I can't thank you enough for I have a whole list of just affirmations and takeaways from today's episode, and I hope that the listeners have the same experience, that they feel confident that they can handle these, that they're achievable. And I would want to make sure that if they're not already following you, why don't you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can follow us at the Identity Collective, and that's identity with an E. And if you are into web design or just want some inspiration, our creative studio is at idco.studio.
Yeah, and you have some beautiful templates, and I know I see the releases and I'm following along with them. And what I think is super special about the templates that you create for the websites is that you only make them accessible to 10 designers. So it's very unlikely that the whole community around you is going to end up with the other 9 if you get one of them, which still helps you kind of stand out in your market and with the clients that you're trying to reach. Yeah,
thank you so much for taking the time to notice that's something that we do. Yeah, it was really important to me that we let everybody kind of, a template has to serve more than one person. That's why we created them. But I feel like 10's a really good number because, like I said, there's enough work for everybody. So you can really spread that out and feel like you have a super bespoke and custom website for way less than what our full service packages are. And it's really exciting to be able to bring that like a much more attainable value.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys so much. This was so fun and such a fun way to wrap up the week.
Seriously.
Oh yes, we can get onto. I mean, we're recording for our audience. We're recording on a Friday, so it's time to go get a cocktail at my house.
It's 5 o'clock, isn't it? Almost.
Pretty much. Well, no,
it's quarantine. 5 o'clock. It's 4:30.
Yeah, it's 6:30 here, so I should be like a bottle.
Yes, you're overdue.
Wow. You better get going.
Get caught up.
Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you guys so much. Really, thank you for having me. This does not get lost on me. It's an incredible honor.
Oh,
So
thank you.
So
yeah, we'll be in
much.
touch.
Bye.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Shaun at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED.
Because I'm like, here we are, the little fish, like, hey, would you be interested in talking to us? Like,